go for it.
So what were you saying? How I'm correct?
Well, you were talking about trying to bridge the gap between our physical health and our mental health. And I was just going to let you know that from an academic standpoint, you're absolutely right. Our bodies and our minds are so interlinked, and we have so ignored that space for such a long time that just off the top of my head, like there's two amazing books that if you're interested, I want you to read them.
I'm going to write them down.
The first one is, okay, write it down. The first one is The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh my God, I had a conversation about this book yesterday. This is fucking weird.
Really?
Yeah, legit.
There you go. I talk about this book all the time. It's by Bessel van der Kolk.
Yeah.
And I fangirl out on him super hard. And the other one, so The Body Keeps the Score is really quite dense. It's very thick and it's very dense. And if you're not necessarily in that place, your thinking brain isn't going to be able to necessarily engage with it as much as you would like. So a potentially lighter option with still incredible information is called The Body Remembers by Babette Rothschild. Really, really good one, but not quite as heavy. Like The Body Keeps the Score is a commitment. Like you need to commit to that book, and you need to be in a mentally open space to sort of take it all on, because it is quite heavy, and it does take a much more academic approach to writing, whereas in my opinion The Body Remembers is much more experiential, so it's easier to go to get involved in it and sort of get on board with that one. So there you go, there's two. Yes, you are absolutely right. The connection between our mental health and our body is huge, and that's why, like when I do initial appointments with people, I ask them questions like, how's your sleep? How's your appetite? How's your libido? And people look at me like, why are you asking me that? Because our mental health impacts, it's a two-way street, right? Mm-hmm. So our mental health impacts on how our body functions and how we engage with it. But on the other side of that is how we use our body to actually support our mental health. So they work in conjunction with each other. So they're supposed to be a team, not two opposite things.
Where were you like 6 years ago when I first came up with this kind of idea, and I was like, guys, we kind of need to talk about this. You know what I mean?
Well, I was treating people. I was doing this.
Do my thing, dude. Like you were somewhere else. No, that's trippy, because people sit down with me, and obviously I come from the physical standpoint, right? The coaching, and I'm like, all right, how's your head? How's stress? Like, how's your family life? How's life? Like, are you kind of floating? And they're like, what the fuck are you on about, man? Like, I'm here to get ripped, do well in sport or whatever. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's fine. They're all pieces of the jigsaw, but if we don't have them all, it's not a finished picture.
Exactly. And we can't depend on one, because we're not totally one-dimensional. So for those people that are coming in and getting coaching from you, and it's like, it's all about my body, and it's all about getting fit, it's all about getting strong, and whatever it is that they're there for, there's more to that, and they can't rely on that as the one thing that's going to help them or change them or save them, because mm-hmm. we are so multifaceted, and mm-hmm. we are so many different things to different people. So like when I'm working with families, and we're talking about, say, an incident or something's happened in the family, depending on where the family is at, I introduce the concept of truth, because truth is just a concept. It's not actually real. So if, let's say you and I are brother and sister, and we have a mother and father and another sibling, mm-hmm. and something happens at Christmas, right? Your version of what happened is truth. Siblings' version of what happened is truth. My version of what happened is my truth. Parent version is their truth, and the other parent version is their truth. There's no one singular truth in that space, because we're all coming into it with our own experiences, our own emotions, our own processes, our own biases, because we like to pretend we don't have biases. So this thing has happened and everyone's experienced it differently, and everybody has a truth about it. There isn't just the one.
Perception is reality, right?
Exactly. It's our perceptions of reality. We always think we're right.
Fuck. Well, like 5 minutes
we
in,
always think that
I don't have a brain cell left.
We need more coffee.
It's fine. I'm like juiced up. Keep going. I'm interested.
So yeah, understanding that we aren't the only holders of truth is where growth actually happens. So as an example, I'll give you an example. If you ask, so I have two children. I have an almost 16-year-old son and an almost 8-year-old daughter. If you ask my daughter, what's mummy like, she'll give you a version. She'll be like, mummy's fun, and we go swimming and we do this, and mummy gives me cuddles and she's snuggly. If you ask my son, he will say, you know, mum's a taxi and an ATM. And mum does this and mum's funny, or blah, blah, blah. If you ask my clients or my patients, they will give you another version. If you ask my boss, they'll give you another version. If you ask, so my boss might say she's a dedicated worker and she's crap at her admin, which is totally fair. I'll own that, hands up. But then again, if you ask my ex-husband, he might go, she's a bitch. Every single one of them is right. Because for every single one of them, that's the truth of me to them. So my responsibility as an insightful, well, hopefully insightful, accountable adult is to own that space and be accountable to it and go, yep, to that person, I am that thing. And I hold that role and I hold that space. Understanding that we are different things to different people and we're responsible for the roles that we hold with others. So I say to people, like when I get trolls on the internet, there's so much fun. I say to people, be the version of yourself that you want others to think that you are. Because what you're putting out might not be what others are receiving. Because we are so multidimensional.
I think it's a really important skill, because then you can understand other people, right? Rather than getting fixed in me. And I'm like, there's like nearly 8 billion of us on the planet, dude. Like, you know, there's a few more of us than just yourself and the person looking back at you in the mirror.
Exactly. And how we interact with each other needs to not be dominated by one person in that space. And that's every relationship. So it's about understanding our responsibility to reciprocity.
How would you tackle the idea of, so if we're like different people, right, or slightly different and fill different roles for different people that we interact with, how would you tackle the thought of that individual getting lost in who they actually are if they're different with everybody else?
So I guess I'd start by exploring the concept of masking. So if you're different with everybody else, then, so as the examples I gave, I am genuine in each of those roles with people. When I'm with my children, I am genuinely me, even though they experience me differently. When I'm with my boss and my colleagues, I am genuinely that version of me. When I'm with my clients and patients, I am genuinely that version of me. So I'm not actually masking. I do have boundaries, of course I have boundaries, but I'm not masking. You mentioned sort of that masking. So I guess my question would be, when you're masking, what are you masking from? Why would we be disingenuous?
This is really interesting. I want to dive into more of like, because it goes hand in hand with dudes, right? You know, I think everyone has heard the term putting the mask on with a fella. And you see that, and I have personally experienced that for myself and everybody else around me, you know. And what's your thoughts on this?
Oh, how controversial do you want me to be?
You say whatever the fuck you want, man. This is, you know, my thing. Like,
brilliant. So I have a hypothesis, So in my background, I've worked with teenagers for a long time. I love working with teenagers, and actually my favorite demographic of people to work with, teenage boys. I love teenage boys. They are the funniest, most irreverent, daggiest, awkward, but amazing people to work with. It's awesome fun. One thing we don't do as a society, and I'm blaming everybody, is when boys get to a certain age, we stop touching them. We literally stop touching them. We stop cuddling. We stop kissing them. We stop with affection, and we start to move them physically away from us as that nurturing family mothering type unit. I know the crap out of my son. But I see when working with teenage boys that craving for physical touch and physical engagement. So when we see teenage boys move into activities and roles where there is touch, such as sports, lots of sports that will move into sport, they will do things to seek out touch because we stop touching them. And I think, just like Darwin, I think it has to do with where their brain is at, like their neurosequential development compared to their physical development. So I know I've worked with 14-year-old boys who are 6 foot tall and like built like a brick shit house.
Yeah.
They look like a man. And our response is to treat them as a man. But their neural development is a 14-year-old boy. They are still a boy, and they actually need to be treated with that level of nurturing of the 14-year-old boy, not the man that we see before us. So it's our incongruence. So what we see and what is actually happening are different things. So because we see a man, we stop touching them, we stop treating them like a kid, even though they are still a kid. So we stop with that touch. And we know that touch does things to neural development. So it changes the way brains grow. So if you've ever known someone who's had a newborn, we talk about kangaroo cuddles, which is where you put the baby on your chest and stuff, because it actually helps them to grow. We need touch as human beings. So for men, it's been so ingrained for so many generations that men don't touch. Men don't touch each other. The only ways that men touch each other is through females or their romantic partners, or through aggressive physical contact. So I feel like, or I think, for a lot of, whereas women don't do that. Women will touch each other, will hug each other. You know, my sister and I are in our late 30s and we still hold hands to cross the road because it's just so, we've got to keep little sister safe, You just do that stuff, whereas men don't do that. They don't innately reach out or naturally reach out to touch each other. You shake hands and that's it, but how much distance is there in a handshake? Whole body length. Men have been socially distancing way before it was cool. And therefore, what happens in our brains when we don't have that fundamental human need of touch met? So I wonder about that connection between men's mental health and our, particularly through the previous generations, and our ceasing of touching too early.
Wow, like
on young.
I as you're talking, I'm mentally going through, other lads that are either good mates of mine, people that I consider family, just acquaintances, and just kind of like ticking through them, right? And I'm like, okay, how do we greet each other? Is it that fucking weird handshake that lads do and kind of bump shoulders? Is it just like a hiya mate? Or is it like a come here lad and give each other a massive hug, right? And I can pinpoint everyone that I hug. We can sit down and have legitimate heart-to-heart conversations. And everybody that we don't do that, and it's either this weird middle ground or it's just a weird handshake or all right, there's always some sort of weirdness in the air, right? It's like I can talk to you, but there's 20% that I'm going to be like, maybe I'm not going to say that. And you're going to do the same with me.
There's that masking you talked about. There you go. That's that masking. That's that disingenuous version of yourself that's masking because you're not entirely comfortable in that space. Whereas That's not okay. If we were physically in the same space, not in different countries, and we knew each other, right? Let's say you've got a male friend, a female friend, and you know them equally as well. The greeting you would give the female would be very different to the greeting that you would give the male, wouldn't it?
Traditionally, yeah.
Yeah. Therefore, but also, I guess the next question is, and I'm looking for the parallels here. Would you be more able and willing to engage in a really genuine, deep conversation with that woman about your mental health compared to the man, even though you know them for the same amount of time, blah, 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 but then there's just that difference.
100%.
You feel connected.
100%. I always think though, because I grew up with a single mom, right? And I'd see my dad like once every 6 to 8 weeks. So I obviously got used to speaking to a female, right? And we would have heart-to-heart deep conversations of like, she would ask me what it was like, obviously growing up in a male body, so she could help me. And I would ask questions of like, oh, like obviously what's going on, and then she would kind of decipher what's going on in a female body. So we'd have like the opposite end of the conversation and bring it together. So it's a little bit different. I always think about, oh, it's because I grew up with my mom. I'm like a little bit, I can speak to ladies, no problem. And then lads, not so much, because I would either socialize on the street or obviously it was just me mum. That's the way I go. But I agree.
It's interesting because when I have this conversation with men, funnily enough, when I have this conversation with women, they struggle to pick up this concept because it's not their experience. Whereas I talk to men and they go, oh yeah, like 13, 14, high school. As soon as I rock into high school, don't touch. There's no touch. My parents stopped hugging. It was weird, and I felt weird snuggling up to my mum on the lounge. So that physical connection, especially if that's their love language or part of the makeup of their love languages, is physical touch, to literally pull that whole thing away while we're still engaging our neurosequential development changes the way that our brain operates. And therefore, men's mental health.
Wow. Fuck me up.
I didn't mean to do that.
No,
Sorry.
no, I'm joking. No, that's like, you can only connect the dots looking back, right? But like that makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. Like, going back to my other point of, if I got a mate, like I got two brothers that aren't actually my brothers, but they are my brothers, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And every time we see each other, I've not seen them in like 3 years I've been here, but every time we see each other, it's massive hugs, right? Massive hugs, huge bear hugs. Every time we like finish on the phone, it's like, love you, lad, see you later, and legit, I can ring them up and they're in the middle of a party, and no matter what was going on, I could tell them straight. I could just say a spade is a spade, and then I can flip that onto the other side, right? And I'd be like, yeah, you've got mates that you're friendly with, but you don't really touch each other at all. And they're like, maybe I'm going to keep that last point to myself, because I'm still figuring this whole dynamic thing out.
Exactly.
Wow. This is something I'm really interested in, because it was my reality. And I'm still obviously going back. I think self-awareness is the greatest thing anyone could have, right? And whether you put things to bed or not, you're still going to have to dig them up and figure them out and keep on doing that, What have you found with young lads that grow up with just their mum and either don't know their dad, there's a stepdad, or they don't see their dad that much?
So it's an interesting, so part of my background, as I said, I used to work in child protection. I worked in residential care and juvie with young men, and a constantly recurring theme was the absence of a positive male role model. Do I think that role model needs to be genetically tied? No. Not at all.
Me neither.
I think it has to do with, so this is where we talk, are you ready? Sit down. We're going to talk about multi-generational trauma. So if men from the 50s and 60s have not been taught how to be safe, mentally health, psychologically safe, physically safe men by their fathers, they have no idea how to do that for their sons or their daughters for that matter. And then we do the same thing and we keep moving that chain forward down the line, which is why we end up with potentially why we've ended up in the last decade where people are going, men's mental health, what the actual fuck? Because we never talked about it before. And we've not addressed that multi-generational trauma.
So sorry to butt in, but like if we think about it, we're 3 generations out of World War II. That's it. You know what I mean? Right. The greatest fucking tragedy the world has ever seen, arguably. Right? Obviously, you can make arguments of whatever, but the greatest tragedy the world's ever seen. Plus, like, very, very soon before that, we had World War One. Right? So we had 2 fucking world wars pretty much back to back with a Great Depression. Obviously, over in America. That in.
Why not? Yep.
Why not? Famine, Spanish flu, like you name it, all this, we're 3 generations out of that. That's it.
Exactly. So for so long, entire populations have been operating from a reptilian part of their brain rather than that higher order part of the brain. Do you want to talk about the brain? Can I bore the shit out of you with neuro stuff now?
Go for it. This is fascinating. I'm bought in.
You're in? You're all in?
I'm in. I'm in.
I know this is a podcast, but do this for me. This is a model that was developed by a guy called Dr. Dan Siegel. It's the hand model of the brain, and I use this to teach everybody from a toddler right up to adults how their brain actually works. And
good, because I got the knowledge of the toddler.
I promise you don't. So hold up your hand for me. Good. So this wrist, your wrist and your forearm, I want you to think about as your spine, whereas your whole hand is your brain. There's 3 main structures in your brain that we're going to talk about. The first structure is the palm of your hand, and this is your reptile brain or the lizard brain. And this is where all your survival instincts live. And this has also got a default switch in it. So when your brain perceives that it's in danger and needs to survive, it, like a nuclear power plant, it has an off switch, like a main off switch. It switches off everything it doesn't need and goes, fuck it, I don't need that to survive right now. I'm going to turn off anything I don't need. Lizard brain. Think about what a lizard does. Not much. They eat, they sleep, they breed, they hunt. That's all. They don't do maths and they don't have emotions. Fold your thumb into your hand like that. Yep. So that part there is made up of the brain stem. So the reptile brain is the brain stem. This part here, the thumb folded in, is the limbic system or the mammalian brain. So think about a puppy dog. Puppy dogs do all the same stuff that reptiles do, but they have emotions and they engage in their emotions. Or your cat, right? Your cat loves you. It shows you by breaking all your shit, right? Think about how mammals parent. A reptile, right? Reptile brain, they lay eggs and fuck off. They don't engage with their young in general. Whereas a mammal will keep their young. They stay with their young until their young can survive. They're invested in their young. They live in groups and packs, their families, and they're connected to each other. They have emotions. Then if you take the 4 fingers, so this is made up of the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the hypothalamus. So the emotional part of your brain. Now, if you take the 4 fingers of your brain and wrap it over your thumb to make like a fist, not a fist you'd punch with because you break your thumb, but a fist nonetheless, this is the thinking brain. So this is the cerebral cortex, or like the squiggly stuff that you see when you think about a human brain. That's not grey. It's actually pink, by the way.
Wow.
This is where we do higher order thinking from. So this is where we do all the stuff we need to do to problem solve and be human. So everything that you and I are doing right now to do this podcast, thinking, the use of language, using a laptop, driving a car, doing algebra, setting budgets, all these things live up here. When certain chemicals are released into our brain, adrenaline, for example, it actually disengages our thinking brain. So it turns off the structures that we need to be able to engage our thinking brain. And it activates our emotional brain, which is where we see meltdowns. So you see a toddler, they don't have a fully functioning thinking brain yet. So they operate primarily from an emotional brain, which is where we have tantrums, right? But if the threat is significant enough, the off switch comes in and it turns off not only the thinking brain, but the emotional brain as well. So have you ever been in a situation when you felt so overwhelmed and the adrenaline has been so high, you can't think? People ask you questions and you're like, what? You don't have emotions. You're just getting through. You're just surviving. That's also in the reptile brain where our fight or flight response lives. Have I lost you?
No, I'm here. I'm listening.
So if we have, our brain is not actually designed to live disengaged all the time. Ideal neurosequential development and neuro engagement would have our thinking brain driving the bus most of the time, with our emotional brain occasionally. Very rarely do we want our reptilian brain coming out, because our reptilian brain out means something's wrong. There is danger.
Yeah.
So we mostly want our thinking brain driving the bus. But if we talk about World War I, we talk about the Great Depression, we talk about World War II, we talk about the political and social traumas that we experienced through the 60s and 70s. These multi-generations of trauma here. That means that those brains that have run the world for the past 100 years haven't been fully engaged the entire time. So we're experiencing multi-generational trauma. And it's only been in the last sort of 30 years or so when we've had all this information, where we've started to understand these things and move past just getting through every single day, which is what people did in those times of significant trauma, that we've started to question behaviors and actions and things that we do. So think about have you ever had a panic attack or an anxiety attack? Yep. So experience significant threat. You don't think about what's happening tomorrow or next week. You are just survive this moment.
Legit.
So if a group is experiencing just survive this moment, we do things, we say things, and we behave in ways that we wouldn't if we were able to engage our thinking brain.
So I'm gonna attack it from my perspective of growing up and back home, right? Not to challenge it. I'm just like trying to, because I think this is really fucking really interesting. I will say that goes hand in hand with the working class.
Yes, it does.
Legit.
100%.
Like 100%.
That
I didn't understand this, right? And I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but context will help explain it. Obviously, I came over here, right? And things are pretty cushy in New Zealand. Let's be honest. Like, I'm like, this is like paradise. You know, people barely work and get a salary. It's crazy. Like, nothing gets done, and they still get paid by the government, which is insane. And everyone's like, yeah, you know, sun is out 7 days out of 7 days. It's nuts. You know, the cold is like 4 degrees, which isn't even freezing, but anyway, whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what it is. And then things started coming back to me from back home, right? I grew up in a place where you have to double, triple lock your doors. I grew up in a place where you have to know where the nearest object is if things really kick off. People try and rob you when you're in your fucking front room. Everyone carries blades on the street. Manchester is the greatest city on earth, but it's also a very interesting place to be around. People bring it to school, like you name it, like things are going down. It's like medieval warfare, right? It's a lot of socio-economic divide back home in the UK rather than a racial issue. It's more like distribution of pennies. And that was just the way it was, right? It's the way it is. You figure it out, you get by, you hustle, you just figure it out. And I was fine with that. You brush it off, whether you're hard, crazy, or just whatever, like you just get it done, right? Anyway, fast forward, I got over here and I thought I was going crazy, right? Because I hear a voice or I hear something in the middle of the night. The next thing you know, I blink, I'm in the middle of the street in my boxers holding a knife because I think someone's going to come in and kick down the door. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So Alex, go back inside. You're the crazy man here. There's no one else around. You're the crazy guy. Go back inside, right?
Oh, you're not crazy. You're operating from your reptilian brain because it's been so ingrained in you from that multi-generational trauma.
100%. That's
you are
like
100% right.
That's the academic version of my point, right? Of just like back home, that's what you're stuck in because you're constantly in a state of survival. And I don't just mean this is just the UK. This is everyone everywhere who has no pennies to rub together, right? It's just like you are just trying to survive. I'm focusing on the next meal that's going to shut my stomach up so I don't feel hungry. That's it. I'm not thinking about 2 meals, 5 years, 20 years, my kids. I'm thinking about where's the next one coming from, right? And they're on a survival mode rather than trying to thrive. And I think that's the main issue, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. 100%. So I've never met, this is going to sound really rough. I worked in parole and probation years ago, and I worked with a lot of crooks, a lot of people who used illicit substances, a lot of people who were drug and alcohol affected, a lot of people who were in that cycle of crime, could not get out. They were living hand to mouth all the time. I also worked in child protection where people had their children removed. There's cycles of violence, there's, cycles of neglect, etc. And I've never fucking met one, not one, who wanted to be.
100%.
You can't advance yourself. So when people say to me, they're just, you have the dole. People on like government welfare.
Yeah, we have the dole. Yeah.
They're like, they're just a dole bludger, or they're just a junkie, or they're just this. Never fucking met one that wants to be.
Oh, of course
they're
not.
literally in that space of constant trauma of surviving. So reptile brain, constant. How can you engage in, programs and higher order thinking and being able to thrive if your brain is effectively switched off? Your brain doesn't work.
Really want to give you a mic and for you to stand in British Parliament because they're all fucking scumbags simply because the free skill dinners got turned down by 67 votes. 64, 67, something like that. It was in the 60s. And there's 5 million kids in the UK under the poverty line.
So I'm going to say something really controversial.
No,
and you feel free to edit this out.
No, I don't edit shit.
The ability to engage your thinking brain more than your emotional or your mammalian or your reptilian brain is a privilege. It's the privilege we don't talk about, like skin color, like gender, like
keep going.
sexuality.
I want to fully understand this, and I don't think I'm quite there. So keep going.
So let's look at your example in England. So the people who are actually living in it, they're living in trauma. They're living from their reptilian or their mammalian brain because they're living that hand-to-mouth life. They can't engage their thinking brain because they're too busy trying to survive. It's the people who make decisions about those people who are afforded the capacity to engage their thinking brain. They're the ones that make the rules.
100%.
So having the ability to engage your thinking brain and how this is fucking tragic. To not live in a space of trauma constantly is privilege.
I'm going to start crying in a minute.
Because it's fucking sad.
Yeah, legit. Like what? Being able to think one step ahead is a privilege rather than looking at your feet and being like, fuck, like, what am I going to do?
100% it's privilege.
I mean, it shouldn't be. I think we're both in agreement of that.
Sorry?
I think it shouldn't be a privilege, right? I think everyone should be there, right? We're both in agreement of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. We're not designed to operate from that space at all. If we do operate from that space, particularly in childhood when our brain is actually developing. Oh, you're going to hate me. You're probably going to hang up on me now. If we experience enough trauma in our childhood, it actually affects our lifespan. It shortens our life.
Oh, I can understand that, totally.
The more time we live in our emotional brain, mammalian or our reptilian brain, rather than our thinking brain, the shorter our life is. The more health issues we have, the more engaged we are with community services, criminal recidivism. Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. Like, obviously, I don't know the whole like brain science behind it, neuroscience, but like, yeah, I agree. I can attack it from a 1 experience, 2 physiological, and 3 like just kind of like eyes on the ground, like just watching, looking around. I'm like, yeah, like, yes, this is completely correct.
So what we need to like ideally start doing is bridging the gap, not just between physical and mental health, but between like scientific evidence and experiential evidence.
Yeah.
So I can bring the science to the table, but I need you to bring the experience to the table because it's a much more powerful argument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we can't do that so academia, science is a privilege, and that is probably one of my biggest bugbears. So if you've ever looked for a scientific journal or article or something like that, it's behind a paywall, right? Oof, fucking shits me to tears. I'll tell you a life hack though, and everyone who listens to you, please do this. I promise you it works. Find the name of the author, the primary author of that paper, send them an email. They have the right to distribute that paper themselves to whoever they damn well please. And I've never come across one who will not give it to you for free because they want to share their science.
Wow. Is something for you. If you want to hide something from the working class, put it in a book.
My immediate reaction to that, Alex, is, but the Bible.
People don't fucking read the Bible. People like the process of having the Bible. People like the whole faith behind it, and they get caught up in, religious or what. Same thing with patriotism, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many people don't know their own national anthem? But every time they see their flag being waved and we play sport, they're like, "Oh, super patriotic." It's the same thing with the Bible most of the time on the working class, right? On the floor of society. It's like they don't have a fucking clue what it says. You just stir the pot a little bit.
So they're not really religious, they're zealots.
They're what?
Zealots. So they use it as a shield to hide their shitty behavior behind.
Oh, 100%.
So instead of patriotism, that would be jingoism, which is they hide behind being so patriotic in my country to excuse shitty behavior.
100%. Like you sit someone down and you quiz them and be like, okay, cool. If you think you're so religious, patriotic, whatever, right? Equalitist, like environmentalist, whatever it is that people stand up for these days. I'm like, okay, let's sit down and let's talk about this. Like, how many people can legitimately tell you what it is? And I'm talking it from just the working class here. I can speak for my people, right? Of like, most of them have no fucking idea what it is. It's something like to light the fire inside of them, get them a little bit hyped up. So then they've got a little bit of passion in their lives again. That's it.
Yeah. So you just reminded me of a professor that I had, the one that actually taught me the rule about approach the scientist yourself. He said to me one day, I was in my postgrad year, I was doing my research, I'm, rocking my thesis, thinking I'm a genius. I had no idea what I was fucking doing. And I was sitting with him and I was trying to sound really, really smart. And he went, Shanna, stop trying to sound smart and just fucking be smart.
Ooh.
Gotcha. So ever since then, I hear that all the time. I'm like, don't try to sound smart, just be smart. As I was saying before, I can teach anybody about their brain and how it works and how it functions in an age and developmentally appropriate way because I've learned how to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever someone wants to bring me their argument, my approach is teach me. Because if you can't teach me, you don't know it.
I agree with that. It's the same in coaching. You know, you get people fresh off the qualifications, like, all right, team, I want you to make sure you reach triple extension. You do all this external rotation through the gluteal joint. And you're like, they have no fucking idea what you're talking about, mate. Tell them to jump. Okay. Tell them to jump more. Push their hips forward.
Jump again.
Bend the bar. You know what I mean? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, I think experience is the greatest teacher, right? Like, papers and all these tests and quizzes can be fantastic, and well done, you've got all these like certificates. You can turn up to a 9 a.m. lecture and give someone a high five and write an academic paper. Again, I'm attacking it from a place of bias, but what can you do? Like, what can you do if someone's walks in front of you and like is going to break down? Are you going to be able to help this person, or is it you can only figure out that case study that you saw in that specific paper that one time? I'm like, good luck, man. Like, people are complicated.
Yeah. So I have learned more in working. Like, I'm not very clinical. I don't go to work in a button down. Well, I do. I go to work in a suit when I'm in clinic, but I love the dirty, the gritty work. I work best when I'm sitting in the drunk tank with a teenager that's pissed off the cops yet again, and they're coloring in my tattoo sleeve. Like, that's where I do my best work, because it's not my job to show everybody what I've learned. It's my job to actually use that and in a way that they don't even know I'm doing it. So I never think about what are all the papers I have, what are all the, accolades, where are all it. Do you know what? As you were talking then, I actually have no idea where my degrees are. I have no fucking clue.
The thing is,
they don't actually good at my job. If I can get somebody who, so I have my rule in my head is always, my job is to make you feel safe, because my area is trauma. Trauma is the absolute opposite of safety, right? It's threat. It's threat of self and threat of others. So my job is primarily, I will make you feel safe, because you don't give a fuck how many degrees I've got on the wall or wherever they are. You just give a fuck that I'm good enough at my job to make you feel safe, to be able to manage and move through this in a safe way that's going to make your life better. That's the important part. So I need the accolades. I need that shit for the back end, so that I can get to a space where I can get in a room with you and I can make you feel safe. And when you feel safe, then we can do work. If you don't feel safe, I can have 20 degrees. They don't matter.
You think that's number one in dealing with people with trauma, is to make them feel safe?
100%. 100%. If I can't make you feel safe, you're never going to work with me. You're never going to, and I'm going to go back to what you said at the beginning of the recording, you're never going to take the mask off because you're not safe.
Oh, fuck.
Because that mask keeps you safe.
It's funny, right? Because that was me for a long time. Of like, obviously, like, I could not have asked for better parents, right? And fantastic. And I'm obviously not a parent. I don't know those stresses, and I'm sure it's fucking insane. I mean, mum worked 2 jobs or more for as long as I can remember. Like, as long as I've known her, she's worked double jobs. But I never felt safe, right? And looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, these people knew this person, but actually that wasn't who I was, right? They got familiar with this really clown-like, aggressive, quite hard exterior mask that I would place on my face 24/7 for years. And no wonder you reach a certain age and that eventually starts deteriorating and you fucking break down.
Yeah.
Damn.
And men are so good at the mask, and you are told to wear that fucking mask. And you've said it yourself, and this is such a northern thing to say, bless you cotton socks. You're hard.
Well, yeah, we're hard as nails.
Yeah. But what does that actually mean?
Exactly. This is what I ask, right? this is
What does that actually mean? You know what? Your mum's fucking hard as nails.
She's the hardest person I've ever met in my life and will ever be.
But she's probably the sweetest, kindest, most
100%.
gentle and generous person you've ever met, right?
Very spiritual, very open, very like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's see your side, like 100%.
Yeah. So I'm pretty hard. I'll own that space. But I use my hardness as advocacy when people can't be. So it's okay for them to drop their mask because I'll hold it for you. I gotcha. Like that's what being tough, being hard, being strong should be about. Not exclusive, pushing people away, but inclusive. I'll be tough and strong for you because you can't be right now and you need to drop your bundle, but I gotcha. Yeah. Going right back, cycling right back to what we were talking about with men and females and males and men's mental health. Women do that. Yeah. So I will, okay, perfect example. Oh, this is, okay. I'm supposed to be being a professional, but whatever. Disclosure. Here we go. I was presenting at a conference for about 1,500 people and I was bricking it. And you know how you mentioned your brothers before, but they're not really your brothers? My sister and I are exactly the same. We're not related by blood, we're related by choice. And I'm on the phone to my sister having a mad anxiety attack at the phone going, oh my God, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. They're going to figure out that I'm not that good at my job. Holy crap. Like a complete dimwit. And she's like, just breathe. Just say the first word. All you need to do is say the first word. I've got you. And she's like, she literally said to me, my sister's a lot smarter than me. Don't tell her I said that. She said, leave me on speakerphone and pretend you're talking to me. And all I want you to do is say the first word. Like, okay, I can do that. I can say the first word. And I walked up to the podium, felt like I was going to vomit my heart. And I put my phone in front of me with my sister on speaker. So I'm talking to my sister. I said the first word. And not to gloat, but I forgot. Like I did try to make eye contact with other people, but this was my first time I was ever doing this. I was popping my cherry and I just acted like I was talking to my sister. And at the end of it, I got a fucking standing ovation.
Fuck yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, oh, okay. What do Then I stood there. Don't get too pumped. Then I stood there like a complete moron going, where the fuck do I go now? What's happening now? Can I just have a cup of tea? I did that really awkward thing where the host had to come and actually push me off the stage really gently. And I'm like, okay, I've peaked for today. Time to go home.
Wow.
So everybody experiences that stuff. Nobody is immune. I'm quite open about that space and operating in that space. So those people that I was presenting to, they did, and they came up to me afterwards and people emailed me and stuff like that. They saw me being very professional. They saw me being hard. They saw me being strong. They saw me being tough. But what they didn't see was me dropping my bundle 5 minutes up before and then 5 minutes after because it was a complete nightmare. Because my sister used her strength to hold me in that space because she was tough and she was strong. This is what we need to be using our strength for, to be inclusive, to look after each other, not to push each other away. Because when we are traditionally in that male space, big, tough, scary man, we stay away from them. Don't we?
And then they feel lonely.
Exactly. And we isolate them.
Yeah.
I was in a bar for a work function and I'm not good at work functions. I have like a 2-hour tolerance of surface level conversation, right? So you and I can talk because we're talking about actual stuff. I can do this all day. Talk to me about the weather and I want, oh God, I'm done.
You can make 2 hours of the weather. Fuck.
It's a push and there needs to be alcohol involved.
A lot of tequila.
A lot of fucking tequila. No, just whiskey. But I was at this thing and I was so done. But I saw this guy in the corner and he would have been 6'5", at least $130. He was a big boy. He looked like a bikie, great big beard. And I'm like, I noticed just over the last like hour that I'd been there, I'm like, no one's spoken to him. everybody's avoiding him like the plague. So, because I have like, fuck it, let's go. And when I was working for all probation, I used to work with bikies a lot. And they're, in general, yes, they're naughty, but they're beautiful. So I just walked up and had a chat with this guy, and he thanked me. He was like, no one ever speaks to me at these things, ever. And he was so lovely. He was really, really nice. And I spoke to him for like ages after that, like on and off. I could run into him and stuff. But his experience of going, no one ever speaks to me because of the way I look, because I'm big and I'm, you know, and he was a big dude. Like he would be what your normal guest would sort of probably look like, you know, powerlifting and all that sort of stuff, not me. But he was such a sweet guy. But it got me wondering, how often does no one talk to you? How often are you excluded and pushed away? How's your mental health? And even those guys, they don't talk to each other. They don't look after each other because they've got this thing about, I've got to be a hard man. And the concept of a hard man is like exclusive of others. Whereas if we could flip it a bit and make it inclusive, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and you're also displaying so much strength, right? If everything inside of you and the world has told you to shut the fuck up and put up and shut up, right? And you're able to own the fact that you're going to do the opposite and you're still going to be a bad motherfucker, don't you think you've just displayed the utmost strength?
Yep. You're unstoppable now.
Now it can hurt you.
Exactly. So, how's your mental health?
Shit. I'll tell people straight, right? Like,
yeah.
Because for a long time I wouldn't, right? I'd be that guy that would throw you out, would put a wall up, would be the joker, would be the like I would express myself on a rugby field, in a pool, or in the weight room. And other than that, like I would, well, to be fair, like I would do anything for everybody, right? Because I didn't want anybody else to feel any type of pain just because of experience and everything that was going on inside, right? Which usually, like I'm very much of an empath. Like I feel what other people are feeling, right? Someone walks down the street and they're crying, like, oh, that hurts. Right? Someone walks down the street and there's laughing. I'm like, fuck, that's funny. I have no idea what they're laughing about, right? But I spent a lot of time thinking. I spent a lot of time on my own. I'm a writer too, right? Published poet, which is a little bit different to all this coaching malarkey and speaking and all that nonsense. But I basically, like I said before, I think self-awareness is the greatest thing we can ever have. And that's something that I've always been aware of with myself. I've always had quite high self-awareness of like, oh, well, I'm not very good at this, right? Or I'm kind of all right at this, or I'm really bad at this. And it's kind of given me a lot of tools to be like, okay, well, I know that frequent, like my kind of brain chemistry, I will operate quite low frequency, right? If it's just an average day in a year and you come up to me and like, Alex, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, you're fantastic, 5 being like, you just kind of like halfway, and 1 being you're pretty fucking depressed. Where are you? I'm like, naturally, like on an average day, I'll sit around a 3. Right. And that's just kind of, that's normal for me. I'm like, okay, well, I've always got something in my head that I'm having a fist fight with. I've always got something that I'm not okay with. I've always got something that kind of hurts me, and or I'll be a bit sad, you know, or a little bit melancholy. And I'll just kind of like figure that out. And for me, if that kind of washes over me, right, I'll sit down, pick up a pen, I'll lie down on the floor, I'll do whatever. And I'll go into it and I'll put myself into that position and I'll be like, all right, cool. If I'm getting pulled into a cave, right, or if I'm getting washed away by the tide, I can tread water and I'm a bad motherfucker. I can tread water for a long time, right? But I can't tread
Mhm.
water indefinitely, because
Nope.
eventually it's going to end up drowning me. So, okay, it wants to push me towards this shore, and that shore goes into a pretty deep, dark cave. Cool, I'm going to swim into that goddamn thing. And now I do that. I pick up the pen and I made a book and made a second book. Like, I just write things out of it, and that usually pulls me then out of it, right? So I try and create something constructive out of something that could potentially destroy me. And that's just kind of come from listening to people like yourself that are a lot smarter than I am. A lot smarter than I am. Completely different league. Well, academically.
Everybody has their own. If I walk into a gym, I'm fucking useless. I need pictures on the wall, right? Everybody has their own stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody has their own space. So let's not, I'm not wearing that crown. You're not giving it to me.
Okay, fine. I'll take it off. I'll take back the compliment.
I do appreciate the compliment, but I won't take a compliment off the back of self-deprecation.
Okay, that got deep. All right, I appreciate it.
But I can't help but notice that when you're struggling, you do exactly what we've been talking about in that male mental health framework, which is moving to yourself, withdraw, and avoid. And while that has, like, it can be really productive, I wonder if we could potentially change that up, because 3 is not a space I want your existence to reside in. And
you mean talking and voicing it and communicating with people?
Yes and no, it can be. So one of the things so I'll talk to you about resources in just a second. One of the first things that I always talk to people about is I talk about the origins. So where does depression come from? Why do we have it? Because I'm very, very much into psychoeducation, because the more you know about what's happening in your brain and what's going on with your body and your brain, the more you can manage it.
Yeah, totally.
The more you know, right? When you know better, you can do better. So when you're sitting in that space of depression, have you ever analysed the biological and the psychological factors and your susceptibilities that are things beyond your control?
You mean like more like environmental and situational depression?
Sort of. But, like, for example, the biological factors, there's 3 main biological factors, one being genetic. So is there a history of mental health in your family?
Yeah, fucking rife.
Yeah. So being fellow white dude, right? I'm really prone to sunburn, because look at this, like white as hell.
Yeah.
You too, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yep. That's genetic. That's a genetic thing. It sucks and it shoots me to tears, because I live in Australia and really, that's cruel. But I can't help that. There's something out of my control. Yeah. There's so many different genetic things that make up who we are, and so many of them that we're comfortable with owning, and yet mental health ones we're not. We tend to hold all that blame ourselves and go, well, it's my fault that I have depression. Well, no. Hang on, there are mitigating factors. So there's things that make you more susceptible, and these are biological factors. And then there are things such as the environmental factors and psychological factors that are aggravating factors. So we talk about susceptibility, increased susceptibility, aggravating and protective factors. So susceptibility is your genetics. So sometimes it is what it is. Yeah, looking around the family table at Christmas dinner and going, you people are a fucking rich tapestry of a night. Yeah, you're all fucked. Thanks. Cheers for that. But when you're feeling down, also holding that space and going, yeah, they're all a fucking mess too. That's okay. I'm not that, the bar's not that high. There's also hormones. So, and whenever we talk about hormones and mental health, people instantly think about women and our menstrual cycles, but it's so much more than that. Guys, men, you have hormones, and you have hormonal cycles as well, and they 100% affect your mental health.
Oh yeah.
If you track, which I actually make a lot of my clients and patients do, we start to see patterns. We start to see these things, patterns of behavior, things that are mitigating factors, And then we talk about neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are basically how our nerve cells travel in our brain. And I guess probably the easiest and most simplistic way I can describe it is the neurotransmitters uptake information. So if you're on a highway and the highway is 100 k's an hour, and for whatever reason, your brain chemistry is only letting that car go 40 k's an hour, you're kind of fucking up the highway. But that's only because you're in, a car that can only go 40 k's an hour. These are factors outside of your control.
Mm.
So basically, that's what antidepressants do: is they make the car that's only going 40 in your brain go 100 like it's supposed to. Because people ask me about antidepressants all the time.
100%.
The other fact.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, the other factors like psychological factors. So these are where our patterns of thinking comes in. This is where accountability sits, is in our patterns of thinking, because this is where we can change things. There's also stuff like environmental, like is there loss? Has there been loss? Has there been a history of trauma? Is there stress going on right now? Is there completely valid reasons? If you unpack all this stuff, if you came into my office and sat down with me and I unpacked all this stuff, would it not be completely fucking reasonable for you to have depression?
Yeah, man. Like legit. It's quite weird because I'll have conversations with myself about these things, right? And I don't know if it's because I've picked up a couple of things along the way, or it's just like coincidental, but I've usually asked myself all these questions, or a lot of them anyway. And I kind of come to the realization, I'm like, yeah, no fucking wonder, man. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, no problem. Like, if it's going to take you a little bit longer to get through this, no problem, mate. Like, we're just going to keep on walking, Like, I no longer feel down about feeling down, if that makes sense. I don't, like, it's fine, whatever, that's the hand I'm dealt today. I think we're all different people every day. I think we learn.
I love that you said that. God, that made me happy. Because it's not permanent.
No, 100%. Like, we're all growing, we're all changing, we're adapting, we're organic, right? I wrote something, it kind of slices a little bit close to the bone, but I wrote something and it goes along the lines of, I kill myself every night because every morning I wake up a new man. I have 24 hours to figure out who he is. And I think if you commit to that, right, I think for me personally, and this is the way my own kind of psyche works, is like that frees me from any shackles of what has happened, right? I kind of numbs me of the anxious feelings of what could happen. And it makes you focus on like, okay, what is happening right now? And be able to
I do something similar, but in a more existential way, whereas I sort of remove myself from it a lot more. I say, I never have to do this day again. I've done this day, and I never have to do it again. So I can pop that over there. I can put that book of today in the bookshelf, and I never have to read it again. I'm done with it.
So you know what one of my favorite things to do is?
Yeah.
Crossing off on the calendar. Like every morning I go up and cross the day off. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, you survived another day. You're a bad motherfucker. You did it.
That's right. So can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, go on. What is it going to be?
We just talked about all the reasons why you feel depressed and how you understand your depression. But I would be a very shitty psych if I didn't give you something to replace it with.
Okay, go on.
Remember how I said I was going to talk about resources?
Yeah. I've got my pen and paper.
So good. You know how you were talking about how you coach people, and I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and you invest a lot in other people, particularly young men. We were talking about young men before. Yeah. So I want you to actually do something for me, and I want you to report back.
Oh, here we go. Homework.
Here we go. Homework. Oh, come on, mate. Psychs love homework. I want you to get a photo of yourself when you're about 13 or 14.
I have one. I'm a big boy.
Good. Excellent. I want you to put it in a nice frame, like a frame you actually like. And I want you to put it by your bed. Okay. And every morning, I want you to look at him. I want you to look at Alex and go, I'm going to look after you today, just like you would one of your coaching students. I'm going to nurture you. I'm going to advocate for you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to make sure you eat right. I'm going to make sure you get rest. Here's a super important one. This is number one. I'm going to make sure you get playtime today. Because fuck it, we don't know how to play. And then at night before you go to bed, did you look after Alex today? Did you protect him? Did you let him play today? Did you give him enough water? Did you give him rest? Did you feed him good food? Did you look after him?
Yeah.
Because the only way we're ever going to heal the wounds way back when is if we start nurturing way back when.
The concept of the inner child blows my mind, and I love it. Right. I think it's groundbreaking on an individual level, and then also on like a scientific academic level. Right. And I haven't gone that way. I will do it. Okay. I've put it on record. I will do it.
It's all right. You'll hate me for it. You can call me all the names under the sun. My only request is make them creative. If you're going to call me an effing bitch, that's boring. I've been called that far too many times.
Oh, you're a lady. I can't call you anything like that. But you are Australian.
I'm
so
very rarely accused of being a lady, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. No, like it's weird because I personally I'm into the space where I'll look at that picture, right? And I'll be like, fuck man, I'm proud of you. Like, holy shit, you have no idea what's gonna come. And you ended up getting through it. Right. I still to this day I have fucking no idea how I'm still here, man. Like legit. Yeah, but like
that kid's been living in that reptile brain. You gotta help him get out.
That's yeah, I feel, and I know a lot of people are in the same boat as me, feel the responsibility to dig all this up and put it to bed, so then you don't end up passing it on, right? We got to this stage now where it's like it's make or break, right? We either just continue this cycle and we're all fucked, and we just say, yeah, we're all going to be fucked, no problem. This is just the way it is. Or like this generation right now, people right now go through some weird psychological trips and try and figure this thing out, so then we can stop it, right? And we can draw an imaginary line in the sand and be like, right, no, this shall not pass, you know?
Yeah, 100%. We need
style.
to, and you know what? We are the generation, because we are not that generation that's come out of major, like the depression and the wars and you know, the massive political turmoils. We are the generation that has the resources. We have the information, and we can actually hold this space. And that's the hardest thing. Hardest part of this entire fucking process is holding the space and sitting in the quagmire of shit that's been handed down to us and going, okay, we can deal with this. We can manage this, because I'm not giving this to the next ones. We're going to end this cycle, and we're going to do it through education and empowerment.
And how much strength
that's my life goal.
That's massive, you know. And how much strength are you going to gain, and also show yourself, right, for being able to do that? Jeez, like taking, like, the easiest thing in the world is to kind of pass on pain, right? It's the easiest thing in the world, right? So if I'm stood next to a lad, I'm not going to use an analogy because physical violence towards women is a fucking no. But if I stood next to a lad and he punches me in the face, the easiest thing in the world is to punch him back. The fucking everything inside of you and everything that society has taught you is like, clench your fist and knock him out, right? The hardest thing in the world is to feel it. Like, that hurt. What's going on? Are you okay? Let's talk about it. I'm going to decipher how I feel, so then we can, and you're going to do the same. Then we can create this space where we can like pass that on to each other. God damn. I got a question though.
That's going to take some work. Yes. Ask away. Ask me anything.
What about the moon, right? Because when it's a full moon,
okay. That is not what I thought you were going to say.
Hear me out here. right?
Okay, I'm
You
listening.
already
I'm
think
on
I'm
board.
fucking mental. Now you're just like, this guy. When it's a full moon, it
Mhm.
fucks me up.
Yep, it does.
Why?
So I'm not 100% across this one. This isn't really my scope to speak into, but as far as I am aware, it has to do. So the moon also affects like our hormones in a huge way. So ask a woman about how the moon affects her periods. We fucking hate them. Ask a midwife about what happens in a full moon cycle.
Yeah.
Because the hormones in the female body will change because of the moon cycle and the current, all the tides will change. And then we like to go into labor. It's like the busiest time for them. They hate it. Same for the psych units. We hate it too.
Yeah.
And potentially it has a lot to do with our hormones as well. But I wonder about how, because it changes the currents as well, I'm curious, and this, as I said, not my area, but I use a couple of techniques that I use for myself. One of those techniques for sleep and for concentration when I'm trying to like you write or work on projects and stuff is I use like a 528 hertz frequency music, because it changes the frequency of my brain waves and enables me to fully engage my thinking brain and operate in the space of higher order thinking that I need to, or it slows them down enough so that I can go into a deep REM sleep. So I'm curious if the moon and the way the moon moves mixed in with our hormones changes the frequencies of how our brains operate too. So as I said, not my area, just something that I'm curious about.
That would make a lot of sense. Like, honestly, there's been times where I'm like, I'm thinking some fucking weird shit right now. And just like all day, and I'm like, I'm off. Like, I'm off. Like, and things are weird. I'm either irritable or whatever. Something's just different. Right. And I'm like, fuck, what the hell is it? Have I slept enough? Yeah. Have I ate shit? No. Like, am I like super stressed at the moment? No more than usual. Like, what's going on? I'm like, And then the next thing you know, I kind of look in the sky and it's like this massive basketball in the sky, right? Which the moon is just out completely full. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So spare a thought for midwives and psychiatric nurses, because they are busy.
I usually just have to lock myself in a room and be like, I'm going to hibernate till morning because I'm like that werewolf. You know what I mean?
But just like everything else, just like every other emotion, just like every other wave on the sand, it's going to pass. It's temporary.
For
Nothing
sure.
is permanent.
And I think you can, once you are aware of your own limitations, you can then work with them rather than allowing them to work against you. Right. And
so
go on.
If I was working with you and you were aware of that pattern, and that's a lot of what we do, a lot of what I do is I look for patterns. If I was working with you, I would create a plan for you to track the lunar cycles so that we can put stuff in place for you right before, because that is obviously when you're going to need a lot more nurturing around you. You're going to need to be doing a lot of really, really nurturing things that we know are going to increase your dopamine and serotonin. So I would put things in place for you that can increase your serotonin and dopamine, and be really aware of that pattern. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do if, like an insurance policy for your mental health?
Insurance policy for your mental health. That is beautiful.
So what are you going to do next time we have a full moon?
I'm gonna allow myself to go crazy and I'll ring you up. No.
Well, that's an option. That is an option.
I fucked up. Help me out.
I fucked it. Fix it for me.
Like, oh God, here we go. No. Like I usually I found a lot of creative space in those areas, right? And I'm like, I see it or I kind of think of it in a way of, I see the world through a different set of eyes when I'm in that space, right? And I think that can only ever be described as beautiful, because I'm able to look at something and see it differently in the same lifetime, right? And not a lot of people are able to do that. So I look at it from a sense of, okay, let's try and like make sense of some things that don't make sense. Let's try and make something creative out of something painful. And then you can take beauty out of the shit. And then when you look at it, and because I've got a bad memory too, right? Like a abysmal memory, like of all the concussions, I've had Alzheimer's in the family on both sides. Literally all 4 grandparents are like gonna lose it, right? So again,
memory is also a huge thing in early childhood trauma and multi-generational trauma, because the part of your brains that need to be operating to make things into long-term, even short-term memories are effectively turned off because they operate from the thinking brain.
Are you literally telling me I'm fucked?
Well, see,
Yes.
I could find you a really good therapist in Christchurch. So I have the hookup, because it was like the Australian New Zealand Mental Health Association. I'll hook you up.
Thank you. All you need, best therapy I've ever found in my life is a barbell. Second best therapy I've ever found in my life, and arguably has opened up more doors because it's made me see things differently, is a pen.
Oh, 100% with a pet. So there is actually shitloads of research about why pets are so good for our mental health, and one of them is they actually help us regulate our heart rates.
I meant a pen.
So when pen. I thought you said pet.
No.
Oh yeah, pen.
This.
Yeah,
but yes, like a pet too. Like, you know, always giving your cat a cuddle. Yeah.
What if, and again, all right, you're gonna hang up on me on this one.
Oh no, go on.
What if you starting this journey of interviewing people and getting to know people and starting this podcast is your own unknown or subconscious?
Subconscious, yeah. Tell me I need help.
Way to build connection and way to serve and help and treat your own mental health.
Yeah, man, 100%.
Building connections with others.
This is all therapy. Like I came to the realization recently, right? I've traded time for money and done manual labor jobs and all that shit. Like I've done a lot of that bullshit and worked 4 jobs, 18-hour days, done that, paid 2 rents, done that, been homeless twice, done that, like whatever, like been there, done it. Okay, fine. I'm in this position now. And I'm aware that I can no longer do that, right? I can't do it simply because within a space of 10 minutes, I'll put my head in the fucking machine. Like I'm aware of my own self that it will go from 0 to hero in a space of a 10-minute window. People might have 40 years, 2 hours. I got like 10 minutes. Like, and then it will be subconsciously plotting and planning in every way possible. And people will think that's crazy, right? But as the Mad Hatter says, all the best of us are. We are all crazy in our own beautiful little unique way. And that's kind of me making peace and shaking hands with myself. I've been like, okay, if this is who you are naturally, right? If this is the hand that I've got, then I'm going to have to get real fucking skillful at playing it. All right. So how am I going to do that? And I'm a passionate dude. I like getting fired up about things, and I love helping people. It fucking like it keeps me going, right? Equal opportunity for me is what we all need. Like it's my responsibility to take the horse to water. It's the horse's responsibility for it to drink. That's it. Right. And it pisses me off that a lot of the horses aren't took to water, right? While all the other horses, a select few, right, have everything that they need. And it goes back to that socio-economic divide, right? And I kind of.
What if they don't know how to drink?
What if they don't know how to drink? Yeah, exactly. There. That's another question.
We've never been taught. never been taught how to do it, then.
Exactly.
But we also like to hide behind shitty excuses.
Yeah.
So neuroplasticity teaches us that our brains can change at any time. So when I hear people say things like, oh, when I hear people of certain generations say or do things that are not acceptable and then hide behind, well, that's just my generation, or, you know, that's how I was taught. We have science to say that you can learn better, so shut up. You can't say things now like, oh, that's just the way that generation thinks, or they're just an old generation. So that again, something that they're using to hide their shitty behavior behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm allowed to be racist, I'm allowed to be sexist, I'm allowed to be misogynist, I'm allowed to be homophobic because I'm this age group. No, you're not. And it's this generation, the ones that are going to sit in the quagmire, the ones that are going to do the work to end the cycle of trauma, that are going to call them out and go, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to make the rules anymore because you fucked it.
Mm-hmm.
You fucked it for yourself and you tried to fuck it for us. Now we fixed it. So sit down while we fix it for you too, because that's what development is. That self-actualization is going, well, you fucked it, now I have to fix it. But instead of punishing you for fucking it, I'm going to fix it for you too.
And that's
make it better for everyone. Yes. So instead of punching the guy back in the face, it's going, well, let's get an ice pack and talk this out, mate. Because clearly you're not good today.
I think it's really important, people showing the journey. You know what I mean? Like, people are petrified of starting or showing that, like, I've got some cracks or I'm not perfect or whatever. I'm like, fuck me. Perfect is the dumbest word in the English language. What? Like, we're organic. It means we decay and die. That's not perfect. So biologically, we are flawed. So why are we striving for something that we just cannot create? We cannot touch. It's intangible. We can't get there. It doesn't make any sense. Strive for progress. I'm like, hey guys, like, you know, I've said this for years. I'll stand in front of a class or I'll stand in front of people and I'll talk to them and I'll be like, team, you and I are no different, right? In this room right now, for what we're going to do, I know a little bit more than you. Hence why I have a job, right? And hence why you're paying me. Take us out of this situation. More than likely, you're going to know more than me. Everyone should have the position to be the teacher and the student, and vice versa.
Absolutely. And that's kind of, I was just thinking as you were talking, it's kind of funny because my podcast does almost exactly the opposite of what your podcast does. So you're a conduit for knowledge. So your podcast is a conduit for knowledge and sharing information and pooling that information in, whereas mine is a conduit for stories. So I take the stories of people and share those stories with the world in a safe way for them. So what you and I are doing is actually like almost beautiful, perfect, not perfect, but really lovely parallel process. So you pull the knowledge in and I pull and I give the stories out. Isn't that interesting?
Well, it's yin and yang, right?
Yeah, because they're both as valuable.
Totally. There would be no light without the dark.
It's just like we need the balance of scientific evidence and experiential evidence.
Yeah, and I cannot wait for the day where you get actual representatives to stand up in Parliament and be like, team, what is it like on the ground level? Right? Because a fucking lad running the Labour Party who went to Eton College doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, go make him work in a factory for 6 months and then you can talk.
Go down the mines, man. How about you come to my neighborhood, which is the largest council estate in Europe, and you see 12-year-old kids with a machete down their fucking pants selling dope so they can help their fucking mom with 4 kids. How about you see them going to school with holes in their shoes, cold, hungry? Like, do you think they give a fuck about algebra and surds and how to like construct a sentence with grammar? No one cares, man.
More so, it's not that they don't care. It's that their brain literally can't actually fucking do that. It cannot do that because the functions you need are sitting in the higher order thinking part of the brain. And if you're existing in trauma, it's switched off.
You're a legend, like legit. That is like proved my whole thinking.
You're 100% right. Yeah, of course you
Right.
are. And I'll send you every bit of evidence and every DOI in the world if you like. I will bore the shit out of you with neuroscience.
I'll send people your way usually because I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. You don't understand. And I'm like, I get a little bit irate. You know what I mean? I'm like, go speak to the intellectual.
I'll just give them books and then I'll give them an essay. Like I'll make them do an exam at the end. And if they can spell the author's name, then they'll get a point.
Wow. I usually.
So that, I guess that brings me to another like potentially controversial. When people have a stance on something, they're very married to it.
Yes.
Right? Very, very married. And
yes.
they try and give it to other people. So like if in the gym, for example, like I go to kickboxing and my kickboxing instructor teaches me to do something in a certain way. And when I asked her, why do you teach me to do it that way? She went, because that's the way I do it. Every time someone is trying to convince you of something that is not necessarily in your scope, ask them why. Where did it come from? Because generally when someone's trying to get you to do something, they're trying to get you to do it because it will validate the choice and decisions they have made and therefore give their opinion more value than yours.
God damn. Like I legit live my life through Socrates is one quote. The only thing I know is I know nothing.
Oh, do you know about the Socratic method?
No idea.
Oh, so also massive Socrates fan. So Socratic questioning is a method of investigation and teaching, and we use it in psychology all the time. And it's coming to the space of going, you are the expert, not me. Remember how I said at the beginning, I'm like the tour guide in this space with you. I'm not the expert. I'm not going to lead you. I'm not going to pull you along. I'm going to walk beside you. This is a journey we do together. I'm going to bring tools and knowledge and qualifications and things and resources to help you, but you're actually the expert. And it comes from this idea, and Socrates was like really shot down for this in his time. And his other, the other academics were like, you can't do that. So because Socrates was also kind of a smart ass, and this is probably why I like him, he went, I'll fucking show you then. And he probably said it a lot, more articulately than that. Yeah. And he went into the market and he taught a goat herder, a young boy goat herder, about calculus, using only the boy's already knowledge. He didn't actually teach him anything. He just questioned him. He just used questions to elicit information and help this kid pull the information together. Now, I may have screwed up some of the details. It's been a while since I've read that paper, but he proved them wrong. He's basically that I can teach anybody anything when I take the position of they are the expert on themselves, not me.
Wow. That's so weird, the coincidence. Because I've obviously not read that, right? Never heard of it before in my life. But
yeah, it's called Socratic questioning.
Socratic question. Like I've coached a lot of people, like fucking I don't know how many, but I've also coached a lot of coaches to coach people, right? Which is a weird middle ground. And my team, like, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you're missing one important part. Like what? It's like you don't know what they're feeling, right? So, oh well, how do you know that? I was like, oh, it's quite simple. I was like, well, what do you do? I was like, ask them. Like, that's it. They do something. How did that feel? The first thing that you should fucking say is a question. How did that feel? What do you think? Right? And then, yeah, okay, you can apply all the knowledge that you know and experience, and kind of sometimes you need to decipher what they're saying for it to make sense. You're like, oh, okay, cool. I can kind of like see where that's going. Maybe we do this instead, right? But it's like, again, I'm going to relate this to the gym because I think it's great analogies of life, right? Of the movements don't change, right? If you pick an object up from the floor, you bring it to the hips and you put it back down, it's called a deadlift. You're just hinging your hips. It's going to stay the same, right? You teach the movement. That's going to stay the same. You then coach the individual. That's going to change. And that individual is a human being, right? And that will change day to day, hour to hour, year to year, person to person. And you're going to fucking change too. So that's like two moving parts. It's difficult. But like that movement is going to be the same, right? So you just start off with, what do you think? Questions. I'm all about that.
Yeah. One of the questions, so when people come in, we have intake and we have to go through like 100 different questions. And I always say to people when they walk in and sit down in the clinic, I tell them, you know what, mate, you've actually just done the hardest part of this whole process, which is walking the door the first time, because you did it without me, and you're walking into a stranger and you don't know me from Adam. Like, you don't have no idea who I am. So now it's all easier from here. I swear to God, it's easier. I've been doing this a long time. I promise. There will be times where you hate my guts and call me dirty names. That's fine. Just be creative and let me know next time. But then I go through all the questions that I have to ask, because I have to ask the questions. I have to build that biopsychosocial assessment. But I always ask this, and it doesn't matter how old they are or what the presentation is, because my job is not to sit up here and be the expert. My job is to stand next to you and we're going to do this together, right? Just like a coach. I ask the question, depending on who it is. In 12 months' time, if we're sitting here together, what in your life is going to be different on a day-to-day level that will tell you that this space has been worth your time and effort? And that could look like, I need to sleep 8 hours. It can look like I need a better relationship with my parents. It can look like anything. But I can tell you what I think would add value, but I'm not you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what's going to be valuable to you. So, for example, when I'm working with people who are involuntary, they're patients because they're involuntary, they don't want to be there. It's not a choice. And they're like, I'm here because I fucking have to be. Yep, I hear that. What would make it valuable is if I could get those assholes off my back. So the goal here is for you to not be here. What would we need to do to make it a little bit valuable so that they would get off your back and you don't need to be here? That way they get theirs and you get yours. Even if it's, I need to do reporting 3 times in a month. Okay, cool. We report 3 times in a month. Let's do it in this way and this way so that you're actually getting something out of it and they're getting their needs met too. How do I value add into this space? Because sitting up here on the pedestal of expert isn't actually going to help you. It actually just creates a divide between us. If I can help you get some wins on the board, you're much more motivated to participate. So if I can get you sleeping 8 hours within a month, you're going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get your child eating regularly and doing things that you want, what are your goals in this space? And I will get you there. And I'll show you how I'm doing it, because it's not wizardry. It's not magic. Because my goal with every single person that I work with is that they don't need me anymore.
Mm.
My goal is the same for every single person that I work with. For them to walk in one day and go, I don't need you anymore.
This is really trippy, because you're saying, obviously in a such a beautiful, better way than I say it. Usually there's a little bit more fucks and shit in there, but you're saying everything that I say, but it's from a mental side and I attack it from the physical side, right? And yeah, okay, I touched upon the mental side, but I don't have that expertise. It's like things that I've kind of been learned, whether it's own journey, whether it is seeing people, whether it's just like, guys, there's a dot here, there's a dot here, and there's a line that we need to draw between them. Like, let's draw the fucking line. You know, I can help you more. You can be happier as well as healthier. Why don't we do that? Right. And I think everyone has everything they could ever need already within them. I think people and experiences just help draw it out, right? And that just relates back to the questions.
Yeah. What do you want? What's going to make this valuable for you? What's the point of us being here? How can I value add?
Fuck. Mind's blown.
I can say fuck and shit a bit more if you like. Fuck shit, fuck shit, fuck shit. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Yeah. You need to bring yourself down to my level. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
Like,
yeah,
walk of the
tell
earth.
people too.
Well, it's crazy because, well, only you get to decide how you want to live your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's called freedom.
Theoretically.
Right? Theoretically, yeah. Okay. But then everyone else is like, oh, what do you think I should do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I want to do option A. Like, then maybe try option A. Maybe.
Are you coming at this with logic and reason? Because calm down. Calm the fuck down.
Well, no, I got a story, right? I was working in fine dining in Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
Not the guy that worked in fine dining. Didn't know what. Yeah, there you go. Judging by the face, you're like, you're not, dude. You're not the guy that we work in there. I didn't know what fine dining was, right? Legit, never heard of it. Thought it was just something that some fucking posh people do. I don't know the difference. I thought a flute was an instrument. Didn't know it was something that you put champagne and mimosas in, right? I was like, someone was like, can you get the flute? I was like, what are we doing? Are we playing a fucking band? They're like, no, it's a glass. I was like, the fuck is a glass? It's like, oh, it's this. It's like, oh, like, it's like a champagne glass, you know? Anyway, I had this massive table. There was there's probably like 30 people on this table, huge table, right? Of old age pensioners, Americans on a yacht on a holiday, right? Lovely people. Clearly have done very well for themselves. They were dropping some serious cash, right? Just obviously it's fine dining, so everything's like triple the price. He's coming to me like, excuse me, sir. I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. You don't have to call me sir, but no problem. Yeah, let's go for it. What can I do, mate? They're like, can you tell me the difference between this wine and this wine? I still don't know how to say the wines. I looked at him, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, okay. It's like, one's red and one's white. And there was like a 5-second pause, right? Where I think he thought I was taking a piss out of him. Right. And it didn't go down very well.
No.
And I was like, honestly, that's all I can tell you. He was like, oh, well, I appreciate your honesty. I was like, let me ask you this though. Do you like that one? And he's like, no. I was like, do you like that one? He's like, yeah. I was like, I'll probably go with that one. So, oh, thank you. I'll get a glass of that one. I'm like, you already know the fucking answer, man. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I didn't do too well in that job. I did really well
How
at
long
breakfast.
did you up?
I don't know, 4 or 5 months, something like that.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I did really well at the breakfast. People loved a bit of chat. You know what I mean? I was just there, like kind of running around like a headless chicken. I always try and snag people like free coffees and free mimosas. I didn't actually know what a mimosa was. We called it Bucks Fizz, right? I was like, what the fuck is it, a mimosa? Like, it's champagne and orange juice, dude. I'm like, oh, Bucks Fizz. Yeah, again, not the guy. In front of the owner of the restaurant, I fucked up because they were like, can you go get me a dessert spoon? And I don't know what a dessert spoon is. Spoons are spoons. And I just brought him like a tablespoon. I was like, here you go. It's like, what the fuck is this? It's like, what do you mean it's a spoon? It's like, no, I need a dessert spoon. It's like, dude, if you wanted a guy that knows the difference, you hired the wrong guy.
Oh, it's probably best to stay in the gym. That's your jam.
I think so. Yeah. Like I know the difference. It's quite easy, like a deadlift, usually lift it. A bench press, you press the weight, a pull up, you pull yourself up. It's kind of exactly what it says on the tin. Right.
Sometimes keeping it simple is the best way to go.
Keep it simple, stupid, innit?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, just like that dude with the wine. Don't overcomplicate it, mate. You like that one, get that one.
I don't understand. He was asking me, and he didn't even like one of them. I'm like, well, why? Why does it matter? If you don't like that wine, don't fucking pay like $25 for it.
Mm.
Don't get me started on the prices either. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't pay for that either.
I wonder, yeah, I often wondered what it like means to people. So I like nice things. I like, for example, I bought like a Louis Vuitton handbag. I didn't buy it because it was a Louis Vuitton handbag. I bought it because it's made and handcrafted by some of the best in their field. Like they are the best of the best, right? And I appreciate that work that goes into it. And like I love it because of the history of it and the work that goes into it. I couldn't give a fuck what other people think of me wearing it. I don't wear it for other people. I wear it for me.
100%.
I like it. It makes me happy.
100%. Why else would you get it? Like for a status,
exactly.
That blows my mind.
So the guy asking for the wine that he doesn't even like, that's really expensive. Why? That's a status thing. Like status doesn't help you. It's not going to serve you. I assure you. I promise you, the people at the top of who are in the fine dining, they are just as fucked up as the rest of us.
Oh, there was some sites, I was telling you, literally. Oh, some weird sites. Weird sites.
Imagine.
I've had someone absolutely kick off at me at 10 o'clock in the morning because we put garnish in his gin and tonic. I'm like, mate, it's garnish. It doesn't add to the taste. Yeah, it does take it back. I was like, listen, man, I'm northern. I know my alcohol. It doesn't add to the taste. You know what I mean? So I didn't order this shit. I was like, mate, I can fucking take it out of your drink if you want, mate. I was like, come on. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. You've ordered a G&T. It's a fucking Tuesday. Come on.
Calm down, buddy. Calm down. Cool your jets. So what I do when anyone's yelling at me, this is like a psych trick. Two things, one of two things. The first thing I will do is I will basically play dumb. I use my facial expression and a tone, and I will say, are you okay? Because it indicates to somebody that their words or behavior or actions is outside of the norm, and it makes them reflect really quickly on what they're doing. And they go, oh, what am I doing that would make her think that I'm not okay? Or if I don't want them to answer because I don't care, I'll say, if someone's being a right prick or yelling at me, for example, because I don't like that, don't yell at me. I'll say either I will speak to you when your volume and your attitude match mine. That's generally when they call me a fucking bitch and leave, which I'm fine with as well. That's also a solution.
That's a quick solution, you know?
Either one. I'm happy with either one. I will help you, or you can fuck off. I'm willing to support either of these options.
Wow. I love that.
There you go. What are you going to do for your mental health today?
Cuddle my cat.
What's your cat's name?
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Original.
Are you taking a piss?
No.
Better not be taking a piss. That's my best friend.
No. I promise.
If people say you can't, you've got me on a fucking tangent here. Like,
okay, go.
People say you can't train cats. They're wankers because you can. You just got to build a connection with them. You know what I mean?
So, correction, everybody is a wanker. Everyone's had a go at it. And Robert De Niro proved everybody wrong there, and that you could train cats years ago.
You can. She'll wait before she gets a tea. Right? I've got to double tap the ball for her to go there. Like, she comes running back in. If I say literally, right, it's bedtime, she will like toddle on into my room and sit down and wait. Like, legit. That cat is smart, probably smarter than me, to be honest.
Well, who trained? She gets fed, loved, patted, affection, free rent, board, and what does she have to do? Whatever she fucking wants. See, she's just really cute. That's what she gets to do.
It sounds like
I've got a little Jack Russell named Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury. Wow.
Yeah. And he's got a little yellow leather collar.
Bless.
Because it's Freddie.
Yeah. Wow. I've got 3 questions.
Okay, 3 questions. Rapid fire. Let's go.
Okay. Best life advice you've ever received?
Before you get married, make sure you can pee by yourself in your wedding dress. And if you're going to buy a pram when you're having a baby, make sure it fits in the boot of your car.
That sounds like it's come from a place of experience.
No, this was advice that was given to me. It was given to me by a woman when I was buying a wedding dress. She went, make sure you can pee by yourself. And I went, good. Yes, thank you for that. And yeah, make sure the pram fits in the boot of your car.
I'll keep that in mind. Worst life advice you've ever received?
Listen to your elders.
It's good. 3 words you tell your younger self.
You got this.
There we go. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Like,
you're so welcome.
You blow my mind. Like, and you've literally proved me right. So
that's the main thing.
What can I say? A blonde person who's northern who's right? Are you mad? It's like, I told you motherfuckers. I was telling you this a long time ago. And
I did just do a DNA test and I found out that I am 80% English and the other 20% is Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. So I didn't fucking travel far at all.
Well,
basically.
I'm 80% sorry.
Thanks.
Can I say?
I thought you'd be 20% sorry because that would be the 20% that's not British.
Yeah, well, like I said, England's the most divided place on the planet. We love to hate ourselves. Put it that way.
Oh, so you got that masochism down? That's
it's
deep in there.
It's a weird place. Fantastic, like history, culture, like it's like street smarts, like phenomenal place, but so fucked up. Hey,
I'll remember that when I go there, and I will go to the north.
Oh, you gotta go to Manchester. It's the best city on earth.
I've got friends in Lancashire, Birmingham, and Bury. Bury, is that right?
Yeah, Bury.
Bury. Yeah, that's it.
That's North Manchester. Yeah.
Okay. But
Same
yeah,
thing.
my friend is in Lancashire, so I'll go and say hi.
That's beautiful part of the world. It rains.
I'll rug up though. It sounds fucking cold.
Oh, it's fucking freezing.
Oh, good. Good to know.
Yeah, you Aussies are not going to be good over there.
No, I okay. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's 18 degrees here, and I have my little mini heater on.
You're having a laugh.
Fucking not, I promise.
Right.
I do.
I told this story yesterday, but it's only a little story. When we had like a second lockdown, right? And I kind of had a little bit of a home gym at that time. So I was training outside. I was like, it was the middle of winter, right? It was a clear day. I'm like, fucking hell, it's hot. You know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like I'm crisping up. Like legit feel like I'm burning. Like I feel like I'm going to pass out too. I need to go in the shade. I'm like, fucking hell, it's got to be like 25 degrees. Surely. Get up, have a little check. 14 degrees.
No.
1-4.
I'm standing here in my boots.
Something wrong with you.
Yep.
Nah, that's crazy.
If you get a chance to come to Australia, first of all, we'll go to a bar. But you have to go to Darwin.
Darwin, where's that?
Northern Territory. You ever see Croc Dundee?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Where he's from.
Oh, yes. I have to get a picture and send me dad. Literally, we would like binge watch those on repeat. Crocodile Dundee.
Don't watch the third one.
The third one? Is that what, a new one?
No. There's a third one with his kid.
Oh no, I don't think I've seen the third one.
You're not missing anything. Stop it. It's like The Godfather, the third one. Don't watch it.
No. We don't talk about that. It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
It's a double. It's a 1 and 2, right? It was not.
That's right.
Not a trilogy. Same thing with the last trilogy of the Star Wars, but don't get me started because I'll start crying.
Okay, because I've never seen any of them. So I can't.
Oh, that's it. I'm ending the call. I'm
Okay.
out.
Look after yourself.
No, I appreciate your time.
Go do,
Like, and
go
we'll
and do
grab
something for your mental health, all right?
Oh,
Self-care.
yeah. I'll do it.
And let me know how you go with that photo of 14-year-old Alex. I want to hear.
I will. I've got a little space. I can put it next to my bed. It's going to look really weird,
Good.
but I can blame you.
Yep, you can. Send me a photo.
Perfect.
I want to see it. Brilliant. You'll have to, you know what? You'll have to put it on your Instagram for your podcast.
Oh,
Just to prove that you did it.
I thought, okay. Bullying me into things now. This is not fair. Is this what they teach you in uni?
No. I'm using my powers of manipulation for good instead of evil.
Great power.
If I was using them for evil, I'd be a politician. Have a great day, Alex.
You too. See you later. Speak soon.
Yeah.